Hey everyone, it's Rob Ryder. Today I'm Staff Sergeant Rytlewski, U.S. Army, held as a POW by state of Michigan. And my DOD ID number is 12112800006. Could you please alert the federal troops and have them come to my aid on 4/17/2020? My place of confinement is Robert Allen Rytlewski, 10955 14 Mile Road Northeast. Rockford, Michigan, 49341. And, myself and anybody else who's a veteran right now, if you've been told you need to stay home by a person pretending to be the governor of your state because they don't have a proper oath of office, well, then you're actually being held as a POW and it's just a scheme. You just don't understand that you're a prisoner of war in the United States. Right? We've been invaded. Insurrection, rebellion, usurpation, you call it what you want. What I'm saying is that none of the governors, none of the people in Congress, no senators, no congressmen, no state representatives, no county board, no frickin' township supervisor, none of these people have taken the oath of office they need to take to satisfy federal law to have any authority in the United States. As a state officer or in the legislature. And so you can find that in 4 USC, United States Code 101. I'll show it to you in just a minute. Anyways, so you're a POW, what do? Well, then it means you need to go look at the POW book to see what our options might be. And that's what we're going to do today. Before we get there, though, I could use some help if you can, because I am a POW. Send me a care package. PayPal would be wonderful. Rob Ryder at AOL.com. Right? Or you could mail it to Robert Allen Rytlewski, 10955 14 Mile Road Northeast. Rockford, Michigan, 49341. If you want to email me, the easiest way to do that is at courtofrecord at AOL.com. If you wanted, you could call 616-712-6179. I can't say I'm going to answer the phone all the time because it gets to be too much after a bit, but there you go. Hey, and I am no fable. I have to laugh, chuckle a little bit that a guy was helping a veteran, Agent Orange issues, and he's trying to get his, get paid for the Agent Orange. So we were talking about something, and he said he had a major that was helping him to do his paperwork. And he told the major he was going to call me. I'm going to call Rob Ryder. And the major said, Rob Ryder's a fable. Can you believe that? That's what the man told me. So, hey, somebody's paying attention. So, Army, if you're paying attention, I heard Alex Jones say yesterday that he talks to the Pentagon and that, because of compartmentalization, the way things have been, everybody's kind of in the dark about what happens to the left or to the right. They're not really seeing everything, and they're dependent on us to fill in the details. So, I'm going to do my best to, add to the list of details. So NSA, I hope you have your ears on and you take some notes. Okay, give me just a second here to decide what I need to do first. Hang on. Well, that was easy to start with. If you go to my site on YouTube, which is Rob Ryder with 3 B's, ROBBBRYDER, I've got 350 videos, so don't say you're going to go watch all my videos, but if you went back searching by upload date to Kerosene Your Keister, and go forward, these are all things to do with today. And if you didn't know this before, that all these viruses are talking about, I don't really care what number it is. I mean, coronavirus 19, whatever that's a patented virus, right? Somebody made that, put a patent on it. And now what they want to do is test it. Right, that's all they're really interested in is testing the virus. They're using you to test it on. They don't really care what happens to you. That's this technocracy that they're talking about, run by Big Pharma and all the doctors like Dr. Fauci and shit, right? That eugenics and so forth, and we're just their fucking test tubes. Well, I don't care if it's a bacteria, a virus, a microorganism, whatever they want to call it, kerosene or turpentine will strip their outer shell off of them, and they'll just be goop. There won't be anything. They'll been here today and gone in an hour. Had it out your rear end. And so I did a couple videos based on research from, before we got people in white coats telling us everything we can do and not do and what to be afraid of. And go forward. So that's on those two. And then these, Governor, I'm not judging you. I am prosecuting. I'm pointing out these people don't have an oath of office. And that truly the President of the United States is the Supreme Court. Right? All process from the Supreme Court issues in the name of the President of the United States. So what we see happening now and what we think of the Supreme Court isn't issuing from the court. It was sent to the court for review. But if it was going to issue from the court, it would be issued in the name of the President of the United States. Rule 45 of the Supreme Court of the United States rules. So keep that in mind. Right after we're done with this video, go back and maybe you want to watch these. So hang on a second. Yeah, before we get to POW stuff specifically, the reason we're having all the problems we're having in America is that nobody's done their paperwork right. And here's a perfect example. The American Legion, which should be a great advocate for every man, woman, and child in the United States in these times, because they could, under their name, sue and be sued, because they're a federal corporation and Congress gave them that power. It's in their charter of the American Legion. Right? If you're a veteran, go download this. National Constitution and Bylaws. Because this is I don't know how other services are, but, the Army likes things dressed right, dressed. You're going to do it, do it right. Do it exact. Follow the book. And this is what happened, that nobody's following the damn book. So in the United States Code, USC, annotated, Chapter 36, Title 36, Chapter 217, which would be 36 USC, Chapter 217, and a particular section is about the American Legion. And all these are these different patriotic associations that were established under a federal charter. So they're national corporations. Right? The American Legion is a federally chartered corporation. What's its purposes? To uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. Well, that's what they should be doing right now, because it's being violated because none of these people have an oath of office. But we're not doing it. Right? To promote peace and goodwill. We should be enforcing the law, right? Everybody who's in the American Legion should be almost like a peace officer. Who's the membership? Well, now, here recently, they made it open to everybody, which is good. Look at the powers. Adopt a constitution. Well, that's what we're looking at, are the bylaws. Adopt a corporate seal. Establish offices. Establish state territorial organizations. Acquire, own, lease, encumber property. Sue and be sued in their own name. Right? You and I cannot sue and be sued in our own name. They won't let you sue or be sued as Robert Allen Rytlewski as a person. Right? If you look at any court case, they're going to have your name, Rytlewski, Robert Allen, or Robert A. Rytlewski, or some other thing, or in all caps, or some other version, or spelt wrong, or looks like it's yours, but they don't ever do it right. But the important thing with this is, this is the Constitution of the American Legion. And they only had to do a few things to be able to have all these powers that are in this document. And so subsection 21707, service of process. As a condition to the exercise of any power or privilege granted by this chapter, the corporation shall file with the Secretary of State or other designated official of each state the name and address of the agent in the state on whom legal process or demands against the corporation may be served. And it hasn't been done. It hasn't been done nationally. It hasn't been done in any of the states. Right? The national body of the American Legion isn't following their own fucking constitution. And I've tried to tell them before, right? I've sent emails and I've sent, I even tried to open a court case against them in the Veterans Court. It all falls on deaf ears because I'm just talking to people who don't have a proper oath of office, right? They're part of the problem. So to me, the only ones that looks like have proper oaths of office are people in the military, for the reasons I pointed out in those previous videos I showed. But this is, this is the problem in America. That the places that should be able to help us can't because they didn't do their fucking paperwork right. That pisses me off. Now to show you, well, here's those oaths that we're going to look at. Let's go quickly. I forgot to open this up. So there's Whitmer's oath for USC. So here's the all-important rule, and truly everybody who watches this video should go down, Google Title 4 USC for United States Code 101. And you can find this one sheet of paper just like this, have a blue thing at the top. It comes from the GPO, Government Printing Office. Right, so technically this is a court document, right? It could be taken to all courts and say this is the law. Except when you download it, it doesn't have this on. It's only meant to do this for online purposes. Nevertheless, here we go. So Section 101, Oath of Members and Legislature and Officers. Every member of a state legislature and every executive and a judicial officer of a state shall, before he proceeds to execute the duties of his office, take an oath in the following form, to wit, I state your name, do solemnly swear I will support the Constitution of the United States, period. So that's what the federal government requires of anybody who wants to claim authority in the state, derived under the Constitution. Now, if your state wants their officers to take another oath, well, that's fine. If you want to have one under the Constitution of the state, they can. But this is the one that the federal government wants you to take before you do that. Every executive and judicial officer. So if a judge doesn't have this oath of office in Michigan, then he's not a judge under the Constitution. The fucktard don't have any authority. All them black robe priests that did not file this oath of office, anybody they put in prison or whatever needs to be released immediately. I'm sorry, man. Or at least they have to have a new trial. I mean, we need to do it right. That's all I can tell you. But, don't let them take you to court. Don't play their game. Don't let the city tell you anything. Don't let the county. And we should send this to all these people in all these different offices and telling you people don't have any authority. You have not executed this oath, which would be I, Robert Allen Rytlewski. Not Robert A., not Robert Bob Rytlewski, not anything other than your full legal name. Well, let's see if the governor of Michigan did that, because this is supposed to be her oath. And I went all through this in my other videos, but, I want to show it again. Right, this is supposed to be her oath, and it doesn't say I with the name in there, so this isn't the proper oath. We don't need to go any further. Where's the other one? I don't want to see this one. I want to see this one. If you don't have this one, then you don't have any authority under the Constitution, and I'm a prisoner of war. Now, it isn't just her. I mean, this is supposed to be for the county. This is for the county clerk and the registry of deeds. No, I don't see any state your name in there. And, all of these things are wrong on this one. All right, same thing. No place to state your name. Don't need to go any further. Not the one I'm looking for. Where's the one the federal government desires? This is supposed to be the oath of a prosecutor that puts people in fucking prison, which is what our governor was before she was a prosecutor. She put people in prison and she didn't have an oath of office. She's just a false accuser, like this fucktard. I don't have my name in here, so I'm breaking the law. Michael L. Peralt, Kalkaska County, usurper of an office. How about this one? Hey, this is supposed to be a judge. Well, I don't see his name there either. And hey, here's another one. Again, I. Right? It makes it so simple. All you got to do is look to see, well, is their name after the word I? If not, it's not the right oath. Federal government likes, it's, they make it stupid simple. That's where KISS came from. Keep it simple, stupid. Now look at this one. What the fuck? This is a probate judge. This is supposed to be, apparently the seal of Michigan, but the moose is looking over his back. He should be looking towards the center like the elk is. But no, he's looking over his back. It wasn't signed in the guy's full legal name. He didn't use the word, didn't put his name in the oath. This isn't this guy's full legal name. It goes on and on and on. Kathleen Kitty Teague Corridon. You can't put your frickin' nickname in the middle of your name on an oath of office. What are these people thinking? Army, what are you thinking? Why are you letting them do this to us? I'm a prisoner of war because these people think this gives them authority to, do whatever they want to me. This woman thinks because she put this toilet paper into the frickin' some record that she's the governor of Michigan. No, she's not the governor of Michigan. She's a usurper. Right? She's an enemy of the United States. She should be rounded up by the military and put into a FEMA camp. With the state legislature, who didn't take a proper oath of office. With your congressional representative that went to D.C., who didn't file a proper oath of office. With your senators who didn't file a proper oath of office. With the mayors and the managers and the sheriffs and everybody else who didn't file a proper oath of office. Right? Either get them to do it right immediately or throw them in a FEMA camp. Well, I don't know if we can get that done today or not, but, ponder it for a bit. Okay, let's move on. Hang on a second. I wanted to add one thing real quick, that it isn't just the American Legion. This is the same problem with the VFW, the Disabled American Veterans, the Reserve Officer Association. All of these places that were created that are chartered by the federal government that could have all sorts of power in the United States, they would, by definition, be the United States, because there's a definition, there's many definitions in the United States, but one of them is a federal corporation. Well, that's what this is. But it hasn't been properly identified, authenticated, and so it doesn't have any authority. And so if they take care of that, it'd be a really big step in the right direction. And I don't know how to do this stuff. Get an attorney. But there's the other problem. Most of these attorneys, they're compromised. We need to find a black swan attorney. Right? We need to find the most honest man in the world who's got a law license and say, you need to look at this and figure out what to do. Or go get the guy that is what's his name? A solicitor general. Right? He's learned in the law. He's the only man in America that has to be learned in the law. It's written into his title. He needs to be learned in the law. Go grab that man and put him in an office and get him to start talking. Tell Donald John Trump to go get the Solicitor General of the United States. He is learned in the law. And ask him, what do I need to do to be the president? And then make sure that everything he says gets done. That would be a good starting point. Okay, hang on now. Okay, so since it's been made quite clear that we're at war, the General Miley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, came out and said we're at war with coronavirus, we're at war with drug cartels, and we're at war with terrorism. And we're going to the southern border to defend the border. Well, then I guess he's doing it domestically, right? He says he's doing it to protect Americans or protect citizens of the United States or whatever the words he said. So be that as it may, since the person claiming to be in charge of Michigan is not the governor and she has me sitting in my house, well then I'm a prisoner of war under the Geneva Convention, as is every other veteran or anybody who's reservist, right? If you're staying home because they told you to, you're listening to somebody who doesn't have any authority to tell you to do that. Now, this all goes back to the Civil War, right? When Lincoln declared martial law 1861, 1863, the Congress ratified it, and the Lieber Code, which was written during the Civil War, says in Article 2 that once martial law has been declared, it can only be ended by a special proclamation by the commander-in-chief or a treaty of peace. And neither of those have ever happened. Because when Lincoln declared martial law, he declared it in D.C. over the nation. Right? Because the District of Columbia is the capital of the nation. Forget the D.C. Act 1871. People say that the D.C. Act 1871 supposedly made the United States a corporation. And there's nowhere in there it says it made the United States a corporation. It said it made the District of Columbia into a municipal corporation like a city, right? But it didn't say it made the United States a corporation. Just the territory in there. It made it into a defined municipal corporation. So the United States, because of the D.C. Act, isn't a corporation. It has corporations that make up the United States, but it has other things also, like agencies and so forth. So I don't even want to talk about that right now. Forget all that for a minute. Let's just go back to the Geneva Convention. And hang on a second, I want to show you this section. Okay, I'm going to be focusing on we got too many things open in the Geneva Convention. Okay. I'm going to be focusing on Section 3, which has to do with prisoners of war, right, of 12 August 1949. We're in there, and Article 4 is going to define what a prisoner of war is. So I'm just going to do this part first. Then I'm going to go talk about protected persons in general, right? But right now, just prisoners of war, because they're, that's a particular class of persons that are protected under the Geneva Convention. One is prisoners of war, and another one is civilians and Red Cross and members of the clergy, and it goes on and on and on. But it says here, 1, 2, 3, 4, that a prisoner of war, in the sense of the present convention, are persons belonging to one of the following categories who have fallen into the power of the enemy. Members of the armed forces of a party to the conflict, as well as members of militias or volunteer corps forming part of such armed forces. Members of other militias and members of other volunteer corps, including those of organized resistance movements belonging to a party to a conflict and operating in or outside of their own territory, even if this territory is occupied, provided that such militias or volunteer corps, including such organized resistance movements, fulfill the following conditions. That of being commanded by a person responsible for his subordinates, that of having a fixed distinctive sign recognized at a distance, that of carrying arms openly, that of conducting their operations in accordance with laws and customs of war. Now, the interesting thing about this word arms is it doesn't necessarily mean a gun or a sword. It could mean a shield, right? When you bear arms, way back in the day, that was like talking about having a placard outside your building that showed that you had this authority derived from the government, from the king. And you would just display them openly, right? And so it's part of heraldry. But what was just described here could easily be a church, right? The person in charge of the church is the pastor. And they have a sign. It's a cross, right? And they're carrying it openly, right? So someplace on the building will be whatever their authority is to be exercised. And they're doing what they do in accordance with the laws and customs of war. So every preacher during a time of war is a chaplain, right? And chaplains are over chapels, and chaplains are military officers. And so any place that has a gold fringe flag, because a lot of churches have gold fringe flags, that's an army flag. That means you're part of the military. All right, you're part of the military of the United States. And so all of your people are being held as prisoners of war if you say so. Right? But, I'm a member of the armed forces, so I say so. Okay, well, if I'm a prisoner of war, what can I do? Why did I have liberty? There's a reason for me having that word liberty, because, here we go. General observations. The detaining power may subject prisoners of war to internment. It may impose on them the obligation of not leaving beyond a certain limit, the camp where they are interned, or if the said camp is fenced, right? So this camp doesn't even need to have a fence. So now we're saying, well, we're talking the whole state of Michigan is a camp. Of not going outside its perimeter, right? So they could say your camp is your house. You can't leave your yard. That's what they're basically telling you now. You can't leave your yard. Subject to the provision of the present convention, relative to penal and disciplinary actions, prisoners may not be held in close confinement except where necessary to safeguard their health, and then only during the continuation of the circumstances would make such confinement necessary. See, we've been POWs for a long time because these people haven't had an oath of office. We just didn't know it. But now they're confining us for our safeguard of our health. They're treating us like prisoners. We didn't know we were prisoners before, but it's always been, well, I can't say always. It's been that way for long enough because, like I said, none of these people have an oath of office. Donald John Trump isn't president yet because Donald John Trump hasn't taken the 2 oaths of office he needs to take. The one I just showed you that's in 4 U.S.C. 101, which was originally in 1 Statutes at Large, 23, page 23, the very first law passed by the very first Congress after the ratification of the Constitution, says this is the oath that satisfies the 6th article of the Constitution. Okay, well, the oath in Article 2 for the president doesn't support the Constitution, and that's what Article 6 requires, so the president has to take both. And it says in that law, 1 Stat 23, there it talks about all executive and judicial officers of the United States and of the several states must take that oath of office. So my suggestion is to get somebody to go over to the Methodist building, which is right next to the Supreme Court, and go get the Chief Justice, because the Chief Justice has said, or the Supreme Court has said, and that's why you go get him. He has said, the Supreme Court has said that the Supreme Court has, actually, the courts have no jurisdiction in matters of faith. And if you read the Emancipation Proclamation about the 3rd chapter, it talks in there that the way that the nation's going to know if the states are in rebellion or not against the United States is if they have, under good faith representatives in D.C., right? Congressmen, senators, or even delegates, as far as that goes. But because these people haven't filed a proper oath of office, they did it in bad faith. Well, the church needs to declare it was done in bad faith and go tell the president, hey, these are in bad faith. We don't agree with this. And then the president, as the Supreme Court, could issue some process and say, you all are going to go home and get your paperwork straightened out, and you're not coming back until you do. There's really no Congress to adjourn. There is no Congress. The fucktards aren't the Congress. Can we just get past the pretending, please, right? Let's do it. Man, you really should listen to Alex Jones. If you don't understand how close we are to this whole thing collapsing around us, if we don't, we have an opportunity now to flip the whole thing on them. But if we don't, they're going to roll over us. Their idea is to, go to 1/10 of the population or so. And those will just be, cattle for them. There's, I can't say they're humans. I don't know what they are. They're reptilians, shapeshifters, whatever. They worship Lucifer. They eat children, right? They torture people. That's what they do. That's how they exist. And you can tell them very simply because they are of their father. They just always lie. Lie, 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 lie. And so, what's that dude, not the governor of New York, but his brother, who had come out earlier one day and said that he hated his job and he hated what he did and da-da-da-da. And he came out later in another interview and said, oh, I never said that. No, I love my job. And I just got a new contract and so forth, right? He's a liar. What story is true? So this is, that's the fog of war we're dealing with. Who to believe? Well, I'm not going to believe anybody unless they can show me they have an oath of office under 4 USC 101. Right? This is the thing about doing it by the book. It's written. They have to have it. I just need to stand here and say, well, I'm not going to do it any other way except by the book. So this is just this one section, and then there's this whole other. You can actually download the whole Geneva Convention, right? All the stuff's online. The Geneva Conventions of 12 August 1949, right, from the International Conference of the Red Cross. Or is it committee? I can't remember. Conference Committee of the Red Cross. There it is. International Committee of the Red Cross. Well, as it turns out, during a time of war, they have rules. And so some of those rules, this is the interesting thing. If you go all the way to the bottom of this, they made it so that if you're captured, well, this, captured card has to be filled out. Identity card. So I'm going to do these, right? I didn't do this one yet because I didn't have a picture, right? And really, you don't send this one to anybody. So I said, well, I'm not going to do this one. But I went down and said, well, here's a capture card for prisoners of war, right? Postage free. And it's going to go to the Central Prisoners of War Agency, which is the part of the International Committee of the Red Cross that's supposed to keep track of everybody who's either a protected person or a prisoner of war. Now, this is going on the prisoner of war side, but they also have another side for all protected persons, like a registry. And that's where everybody should be registered in this, under the Geneva Convention, because we're at war. And they should be handing me out an ID card because I could be taken as a POW. But I didn't get it yet, and so, what the hell? I'm going to send it in anyways. And then they had another one for a card like this. So what I did is I just downloaded them and filled them out. And I'm going to send, it's already in the mail, President of the United States, White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20500. Department of Provision. I'm going to send it to the Oval Office. And because of the way they have you do this card, that part shows upside down, but that's okay. I didn't cut this out or change it. I just folded it in half. I didn't care where the fold was. I just filled it out, folded it in half, put it in the mail. Right? Sender. And they talking there about doing it by your surname and then first name, right? So Rytlewski, Robert Allen, because my first name is Robert Allen. It's not my first name Robert, middle name Allen. It's first name Robert Allen. I do not have a middle name. I do not have a middle initial. Neither do you. Your place of birth and prisoner of war number. Well, if you're in the military, you're supposed to use your DOD ID number. Right? But I'm saying you could use your driver's license number or your state ID number or your social security number. Just tell them which one it is. Put something on there. Name of camp, state of Michigan. Country where posted, United States, Michigan. And I'm seeking reparation from 10955 Fort Mile Road, Northeast Rockford. I put my address on there. I really didn't know what to put at the time, but I just wanted to put it in the mail. So I sent that one. And then this one, right, is supposed to go to the Central Prisoners of War Agency. Power which prisoner depends. The United States. Rytlewski Robert Allen. Delbert Chester's the first name of my father, right? Again, he doesn't have a middle initial. Date of birth, place of birth, rank, service number, address, next of kin. I just put Greenville, Michigan. They can find my family. When was I taken prisoner? I say April 15th, 2020. I am in good health. And my present address is 10955 14 Mile Road, Rockford, Michigan. So I just put my address on there. I really didn't care what it said for name of camp and so forth. And, send it in. So, if you're feeling froggy, do the same thing. Send something to them and show your displeasure. Okay. Just a few more things. I'll be done. Hang on here. All right. This other PDF, this is the whole Geneva Convention. That one section I showed is just one of the sections. This is the entire thing. And so if you were to search on the word protected, start talking about protected persons. And so, either you're a protected, during a time of war, you're either a protected person or you're a belligerent. Because even, POWs are protected persons. They're just a particular class of protected person. Right, but conventions relative protection of civilian persons in a time of war. Right, so this is the section that, I believe this would be section 4. Right, where everyone other than a POW would be. Where in Article 4, we'll have a definition for protected person. Where are you? There you are. But before we get to that one, in case of armed conflict not of international character, which we're involved in right now, I mean, there is an international war going on, but there's a domestic war, right? If it's not of an international character, it must be domestic. It's only two types there would be. So in a domestic war occurring in the territory of one of the high contracting parties, well, that'd be the United States, each party to the conflict shall be bound to apply as a minimum the following provisions. Persons taking no active part in the hostilities, that would be you, civilians, right? Not actively involved, including members of the armed forces who have laid down their arms, and those who are sick, wounded, detention, so forth, shall not, or shall in all circumstances be treated humanely without any adverse distinction founded on race, color, religion, faith, sex, birth, so forth, and so on. So basically, we're all protected persons. Persons protected by the convention are those who at any given moment and in any manner whatsoever find themselves in any case or conflict or occupation in the hands of the party to the conflict or occupying power, that they are not nationals. We are not a national of Michigan or of Ohio or of Illinois or of Texas. You're a national of the United States. Right? So you are in the hands of somebody that isn't your national, because state of Michigan, usurper Whitmer is not the governor of Michigan, which is part of the United States. Nationals of a state which are not bound by this convention are not protected by it. Well, that would be people like Whitmer, because the state of Michigan, if they're going to act like a government, well, they're not protected by the Geneva Convention. They're not a party to it. The United States is a party to it, not state of Michigan. Right? So these people that want to be a state citizen, you're being treated like a state citizen. You're not really a state citizen. You're a citizen of the United States. You're a national of the United States, and you should be protected by the Geneva Convention. And so I suggest that, everybody should, because you're sitting around doing nothing anyways, why don't you download the Geneva Convention and read the section that has to do with protection of civilian persons in a time of war. And then go talk to your preacher with a gold fringe flag and say, dude, we need to, send in some paperwork. We need to let our nation know that we've been held as a prisoner of war. And make it official. Because I got to find the particular page in here, but this shows in here that they're supposed to create these registries of protected persons. So hang on a second. Okay, so again, this is the Geneva Convention that you can download online, right? It's a 224-page PDF. And just to make it quicker, I gotta find the right one. Here we go. In section 4 or 5 on the section to do with civilians, Article 137, it talks about these information bureaus. That upon the outbreak of conflict, and in all cases occupation, which is we are now, we're under occupation by some foreign agent pretending to be the government, but they're not. So, check the box. Yeah, it's an occupation. Each of the parties to the conflict shall establish an official information bureau responsible for receiving and transmitting information in respect to the protected persons who are in its power. Each national bureau shall immediately forward information concerning the protected persons by the most rapid means, the powers of whom the aforesaid persons are nationals, or to powers in whose territory they reside through the intermediary of the protecting power, and likewise through the central agency provided by Article 140. Well, the intermediary in the United States is the Red Cross, as I remember. So, anyways, I don't know exactly how to do it, to the Red Cross, so forth, the proper ways. I'm more about just shotgunning things out through the internet, right? And finding a bunch of email addresses and sending them all the same thing at the same time and so forth. And so, for those of you who are much more studious, why don't you read this and figure out exactly how to do it, maybe make a couple phone calls, see if you can put it all together. And if you get it figured out, tell me, and I'll do a video on it. Right, but in the meantime, there you are, right, that your name and your information should go to some registry and say that you're a protected person during the conflict. And make it known to everyone that you can that these people don't really have any authority. And so, like, if you have a member of the, somebody who's serving in the military, and you have their military address, you don't need to send it to them, right? Just use the address. Instead of putting their name on there, put commander. It will go to the commander and tell the commander of that unit that there's people here that don't have a proper oath of office, right? And let the military know that the people they're listening to, or maybe they're not listening to them, but if they are, hey, these people don't have any authority. They're not the civil authority. We are. Right? The civil authority in a military government, which is what we're under, martial law since 1863, leads to military government, or rule by military law. Then a veteran would be part of the government. And the only reason I'm not, and any other veteran is not, is because we don't have our ID card, which is part of the scheme, right, to make sure that we don't have an ID card. Because then I'd be a federal officer. They couldn't just, treat me like a mister. They'd have to treat me like a sergeant in the United States Army. When they call you a mister, that's a derogatory statement, by the way. Don't ever let them call you a mister. You say, no, I'm a sergeant in the United States Army. We're going to use titles. You can call me Sergeant Rytlewski. So the Department of Defense has many, many, many manuals online that you can download. And this one here is Department of Defense Instruction. Some are manuals, some are instructions. This is an instruction, number 1001, which says identification cards required by the Geneva Conventions. in which it says the DoD ID card shall serve as a Geneva Conventions card for eligible personnel and shall be issued in accordance with this manual, DoD Manual 1000.13, which, you can download any of these just by copying like DoD Manual 1003 and pasting it. They don't hide it. It's there to be found. It'd be real easy to find a copy, right? Now, the DoD ID number shall replace the Social Security number in accordance with some other reference, DoD 1030.30, and serve as a Geneva Convention serial number on ID cards issued to eligible personnel that no longer display an SSN. So, again, if you're a veteran, you have a DoD ID number, whether you know it or not. I didn't know I had one until I signed up at the VA, and they said, here's your DoD ID number. So, well, look at that. They can't lie, I have one. So why don't I have a card? That's what I want to know. You gave me a damn DoD ID number, but they won't give you the card. Now, the reason for that is there's errors in the records that were put there on purpose, and I've done God knows how many videos and shit like this. But now's not the time to worry about it. It's just, can we get the DoD ID card? We're at war, Army. Issue me my DoD ID card, please. Shall be issued for purposes associated with the instructions referenced in G, not solely to facilitate travel overseas, base, and installation access, and other DoD business processes. No, for official purposes. That's why I need one. Is there any more I wanted to read on here? I shouldn't just go past these. The Geneva Convention. So in here it gives all these different references that have to do with DoD ID cards, right? Copy and paste any of them, start reading, see what you find out. You got a contact in the inside, please call them, man, because I don't know anybody. Right, prisoners of war, including members of uniformed service and civilian personnel authorized to accompany the armed forces who have fallen into a power of the enemy, are protected by the Geneva Convention. So if they're going to take you to court, veteran, tell them that you're protected by the Geneva Convention. I'm a POW, and I'm protected by the Geneva Convention. Now, as a veteran, you can also tell them, and I demand trial by court-martial, because that is your privilege. The staff of the National Red Cross and other voluntary aid assignments duly recognized. So these are all different people that can have them, right? That's what that is. And it's this National Red Cross that is like our intermediary to the, International Commission on Red Cross. And so write to them and tell them you're a freaking POW. Just start writing to everybody you can. Say, I've made a POW because show them a copy of 4 USC 101 and say the person pretending to be your governor doesn't have a copy or hasn't complied with this law and therefore to usurpation. Send it to the president, send it to the Department of Defense, send it to everybody. Just start bury them in 4 USC 101, right? 4 United States Code 101. The ID card will show very little information is necessary. Issuance of card shall be issued to uniformed service members and eligible civilian personnel in order to meet ID requirements of the Geneva Conventions listed in Section 2 of this enclosure. Well, that's why I say you have to give me one, because I have now been made a prisoner of war. Requirements of 17, reference F, ID card. This is the Geneva Convention, I think the section on POWs. Contain unique identifying information, photograph, fingerprints, or signature. Shall be implemented in accordance with something. The unique characteristics shall be maintained in DEERS and shall include, not limited to, digital photographs and fingerprints. And this is the problem. This is where the problem is. The problem's in DEERS. There's errors in the records in DEERS. Both the DoD and VA use the DEERS system, and when I go look at the VA side, they have my birth date wrong, and they have my name as Robert Allen Rytlewski. It used to be Robert A. Rytlewski, and I started complaining. And then they made it Robert Rytlewski. I said, no, it's got to have Allen in it. So then they put Robert Allen Rytlewski, because they wanted me to have a middle name. I said, I don't have a middle name. I just have a first name. And so it's continually not done properly. And, it's part of a scheme. So there you go, right? Department of Defense instruction, number 1000.01. And where was that thing? Pull this up again. 4 USC 101. Really, everybody, please, if you care at all about anything, right, download this. Email it to Alex Jones. Say, Alex, everybody has to have this oath of office. Nobody has. If you have any questions, contact Rob Ryder, 616-712-6179. I'll explain it to him from there. Right? You can get anybody else that'll listen. You can get a general. I'll tell it to him. Doesn't matter who it is. Right? I'm just tired of talking to myself. So I'm going to leave it there for now. But I am in a hurting spot, so if you could please help me in my confinement and send me a donation to Robert Allen Rytlewski at my place of confinement. Or you can send it by PayPal to robryder@AOL.com. Because I am no fable. I'm trying really hard. And listen, people, playtime is over. We're at war. If you didn't know this is a very interesting thing. I'm going to save it for another video. But the Pope has dropped all of his titles. He just did it here, March 25th. Very interesting thing, right? About the same time that Trump quit putting the shield quit putting the placard in front of his stand. Actually, on March 25th is the day that the Senate and the Congress, or the House of Representatives, agreed to a $2 million stimulus package. So I don't know how that ties into it, but yeah, the Pope no longer claims to be the Vicar of Christ. He doesn't claim to have any titles anymore. Those are all historical titles. And the way they have it set, it used to be all those titles and then his name, and now it's his name and all those titles, with a line between them saying historical titles. So something is going on for sure. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. You all have a great day now. And please pass this around. And, well, I can't stop until I show it one more time. For USC 101, every member of a state legislature and every executive and judicial officer of a state shall, before he proceeds to execute duties of his office, take an oath in the following form. If you were going to court today, tomorrow, the next day, you should go into court and say, Judge, do you have an oath like this? If you don't have an oath, you don't have any authority, and you need to let me go. Just tell him. Just get it out in the open. Let him know who you are and what his position is to you, which is he has no authority unless he has this oath to do anything to you, with your liberty or your property. And please tell your city, your county, your township. Start telling them all, right? Don't let these people believe they have authority. This is the problem, right? They think they have authority. Well, that's what Jesus did. He said he had to come and tell them, dude, you got no authority, so that he could say that he had. Right now, they don't have an excuse. But right now, they can say, well, we didn't know. We thought we had authority. We filled out a piece of paper. It looked like an oath of office. It said oath of office on the top of it. But as you can see, right, again, they don't use they're not using their name. Right? Gretchen Esther Whitmer didn't use her name, and it doesn't say I, Gretchen Esther Whitmer. You don't have to go past the I. It's just one letter. I, is there a name after it? No. Well, then it's not the oath that satisfies the federal government, and you got to do this first. It's good stuff, right? I mean, it would stick. This is the law. This is the law. This is what the Army is supposed to enforce. Go show the Army. Right? When all else fails, the Army is supposed to enforce the laws of the United States. Well, that's what this is. It's a law of the United States. It says everybody in the state legislature executive, judicial officers, they all need to have taken this oath of office. Get off that horse for a bit. Okay. Have a great day.